The difficult run has started, and it started with a difficult and definitive defeat. A new thing to talk about for us for a while on the Blue Monday podcast. David Diamond, I'm going straight in. I'm going in hot with a quiz question.
Go.
How many days since Ipswich Town lost an EFL game? Have a guess in the comments if you're watching live. By 2 goals. How many days? Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast, by the way. We are live here on YouTube while David thinks about this answer. Do say hello in the chat. Keep the debate going as we go through. If you're listening after the fact, we appreciate the hell out of you. Do come and join us live each and every Sunday as we get wisdom like this from David Diamond.
I'd go. We didn't lose one by 2 last year, did we? I'd go like 458.
458. Have a guess in the chat.
Did we?
Can I say, Seb? Neil is closer with 650.
Whoa!
And another Neil. Do you want to have a guess, Seb?
Yeah, it's got to be early days McKenna. 680, I reckon.
Dave, I can't even go through with the gag that we've set up. It is 608, and I told Seb the answer in the group. But, Seb, 680 days since Ipswich Town have lost the game by 2 goals in the EFL. And
against Bolton, yeah?
It was against Bolton in January 2022.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Wow.
Through last season, it didn't feel like we were as comprehensively beaten as we were yesterday in any of the 4 defeats. I've just gone back through them. Plymouth was ding dong. Lincoln was just a weird one where we had 40 shots and they scored 1. Oxford was in the actually, to be fair, Wickham did a number on us. That was the closest it's been. But yeah, it's been a long while since we were kind of second best, and you come away going, nah, we didn't really lay a glove on them today, did we?
Very much so, yeah. For me, it was just that Wickham game, wasn't it? Ainsworth did a number on us. The rest of them were all pretty close or kind of weird anomaly kind of games. So thankfully, it's not a regular occurrence for us.
Don't overrun tonight. Apparently, we're up against I'm a Celeb, Dave, and a strange feeling to be beaten comprehensively. We'll get into the game, and yeah. It's going to be about how we react now, isn't it?
It is. I'm quite looking forward to this evening. Actually, it's almost like back to normal. Normal service has been resumed. We've almost had like an 18-month hiatus, and normal service is back. No, bottom line, yesterday just comprehensively outplayed in every single department. I think.
Yeah, they were good, weren't they? We'll get into this. Seb's just said to me before we started. You can probably save a bit of time in the format for Millwall because we can analyse the game fairly sharpishly, if you know what I mean, in terms of how it kind of went down. And Kieran McKenna was very honest as ever with his assessment. Let's get into this then. So it was West Brom 2, Ipswich 0. And the teams, Dave, in my usual miss by 1 on the Fan Hub app, I had Luongo in for Taylor, but Taylor gets the start. Just your quick thoughts on why?
I mean, Taylor probably deserved a start after, last time out. Obviously, Swansea game, he scores an absolute worldie, as we know, and all round he had a really good game. No surprise, Williams now fully fit, straight back in. I think everyone would have certainly been pleased about that. Maybe the only other doubt would have been on the right, but subsequently found out that Hutchison's unwell, so Burns was a nailed on starter there. So pretty much I thought other than Taylor Luongo, I think that's probably fair enough, I think.
And Seb, when you look through this West Brom team, Kieran McKenna was keen to point out the sort of physicality, which maybe Carlos Corberon isn't actually responsible for. When you look at the arrival dates of these players, there's a few different, you've got a Big Sam in there, you've got a Valerian Ismail, a Steve Bruce, etc. Before, all the type of managers who might build that type of team. But I'll just whack through Palmer, Townsend, Kipre, Bartley, Furlong, Yakuslu, Mowat, Phillips, Diangana, Wallace, and Thomas Asante. it feels like the first time this season, Seb, where we've come up against some proper hardened Grizzly championship know-how, and they've been too good for us, yeah?
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, me and Rich discussed on pre-match the size of their back line. They played mainly a 3 at the back, I think, so far this season. So a bit of a surprise that they matched us up and went back to a back 4. But those centre halves were huge, and they've got experience running down the spine of the side. Big money signing in Diagarana. Went for 12 million quid at one point from West Ham to West Brom. So it's kind of a bit of a mismatch, isn't it? Of really good experienced Championship players, good physicality, good pedigree, and yeah, they just matched us up, and they were just simply too good for us all over the pitch, as we'll get on to.
And Dave, Seb makes a good point there, which actually makes this opening goal quite clever, because they're obviously set up with for this corner after 4 minutes, with the big guy's going to head towards the back post, and the little fullback's going to make the run into the near post. I have to say, Dave, it has to be the right pace on the ball and a really damn good header to score from that. I'm sure you're going to comment on Davis letting Furlong in front of him, but clever set play looked very deliberate to me, and they are good on set plays.
I think you've got to look at the move that set it up. The ball in from Jed Wallace to set it up was just sensational, wasn't it? And maybe perhaps Davis could have got a bit tighter there, but he gets out of his feet, whips it in, and Asante, Asante Thomas is on his heels. He should be in on that. But yeah, it's a good delivery. Again, my hobby horse. Look, I know I'm an old fart, but I'd always have a defender on the back post. I'm sorry, I always will. Defender on the back post, they don't score. It's cleared. But no, it's quite clever. I think does he lose Davis? I think perhaps he loses Davis, but it's a hell of an angle for the head. He does really well, actually. But you're right, it's a pace on the ball from Phillips. It's brilliantly whipped in, and he's not. I don't think for 1 minute Furlong's trying to score with that header. He's just trying to put it in an area, and it's a great angle. And I don't think you can fault Hladky really for that either, because it's just a great angle across him, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and Seb, I witnessed Carlos Corberon's Huddersfield side in 21-22 with not as good players as he's got this season go 18 games unbeaten, I think, and get to the playoff final. And their specialty was team shape, set plays, counter-attacks, and being really bloody hard to beat. You do not want to go 1-0 down to this manager away after 4 minutes.
Absolutely not. And the warning sign was there with that initial cross, wasn't it? I think they're one of the top sides for crossing in the division. That ball in from Wallace was lovely. There's your early let off. Keep it tight from the corner. Don't do anything silly. Like Dave said, I'd like somebody on the back post as well. And yeah, it's a nightmare start, isn't it? Under the lights on Sky TV straight away. They're up for it with the crowd, and we've got this annoying habit again where we concede early for the whatever it is. Is it the 5th game in a row now? 6th game in a row? It feels like, yeah, something like that, isn't it? It's a worrying trend, but perfect start for them. Nightmare start for us, and it really knocked the stuffing out of both the crowd and both the players on the pitch, obviously.
And Dave, I think we're going to see this now, aren't we? Being we've scored so many points playing this way. What West Brom do really well now is they know we're going to try and play the entire length of the pitch and play out from the back. They're right up on halfway. They're squeezing. It's kind of a sort of 4-3-3 off the ball. When you looked in defence, really narrow, really tight, really compact, and they let us have it wide in the early phases, pressed really well, and just gave us nothing, did they?
And I think it's when they didn't press, I thought was pretty good as well. They really knew when to not press. And think of how often in the first half, Wolfenden was just sitting on halfway with the ball, static basically, because there was really nowhere to go other than sideways or even backwards on occasions. There wasn't the press wasn't there for him to, as we see, for him to break the press and carry the ball. So that was pretty impressive for me. For me also. Probably our biggest weapon at times last night, certainly first 20 minutes, was the couple of crossfield balls for Burns, which again he just didn't really make enough of, did he?
No, I mean that was the outball, Seb, wasn't it? The straight one down the right hand side, just to go over the top of the high line. But as Dave points out, so many times the ball that breaks the press sometimes comes from Hladky, doesn't it? Into midfield. They just didn't allow it, did they?
No, they schooled us all over the pitch. They dominated us physically, and like Dave said, it was impressive. When they weren't sort of looking to press us, they would sit back and just wait. You could see they'd been superbly coached for the couple of weeks before we arrived in town. The chaplain went out to the right wing and played a couple of kind of first time balls into the right hand channel for Burns to get onto, and it looked like we were going to get a bit of joy getting in behind the fullbacks at one point. Davis on the other side kind of went forward, and I didn't think it was a penalty personally, but a half sort of hearted shout. I don't know if you got replays on Sky. Obviously, I've not seen a replay on the extended highlights, but I didn't think it was a penalty.
He should have got a shot away there. He really should have got a shot away. Yeah. And
obviously the other moment is when Chaplin manages to flick the ball on. The one time we've got a spare man over again in that right hand channel with Burns, and blazes it high and wide, doesn't he? Do you think a fully fit Wes Burns probably takes a better touch, gets out and fires it home like he did against Hull earlier in the season?
It was probably not a too dissimilar position when he flashes a ball in low against Hull, wasn't it? Similar. Maybe he was a little bit closer in against Hull, to be fair, but just I think as we quite rightly said, I think we were dominated all over the pitch last night. However, one or two of our players looked really below par, really, and I don't think that was entirely down to West Brom. Touch wasn't there. Things just weren't coming up. Broadhead just looks out of sorts to me. Really, really big out of sorts. I don't know how you feel about that. I know there was a number that didn't quite perform last night, but I thought Broadhead, more than anybody, just because his standards have been so high. I'm saying he's been poor, but just not at the level. Last few games, I don't think.
Look, you know me, I'm in a massive cognitive dissonance about Broadhead, and I'm literally never going to criticise him ever.
Oh, don't say I'm criticising him.
But they marshalled that.
You're probably right.
The space into, when it works well and they play through, and then someone can feed Broadhead into the pocket inside left. Just space wasn't there in this game. The space was in the bloody fullback areas and for a high ball over the top, unless you can really move the ball through that press, and we couldn't. The space wasn't there. It sounds like I'm giving the players a bit of a pass. Coming back to something Dave said, Seb. It's one of those games where I don't actually single out individuals in respects of, I think it was one team's strategy won the game for them, as opposed to, we could have an individual come up with a bit of magic, but that's not how this team has won games, Seb. It's been controlling games, making lots of chances, hasn't it? That was kind of my feeling.
Yeah, I thought everybody had an off night, really. I'd say our lowest performer was probably a 4 and our best was probably a 6, and that kind of shows that throughout the entire 11 we were way down. I don't know how it came across on the telly. We seem to have a real lack of tempo about our entire play for certainly the first 20-25 minutes of the first half. We kept the ball a little bit towards half time, but even in the second half, the normal kind of pinging the ball around and looking to break quickly just wasn't there at all. The lack of tempo and the lackluster kind of approach really came across last night, I thought.
And there wasn't an outball. Hurst was just totally dominated.
He was
physically dominated last night. They were tough, weren't they? They really were. And Morsey, I don't think I've seen Morsey, crikey, in the last 2 seasons being totally dominated by so much last night.
But again, it's experienced players in the middle, isn't it? You've got Mauer, who was on at Middlesbrough last year, and next to him was just, the shield, and they just, like you say, dominated the ball. I wonder if maybe with hindsight, Luongo starts there instead of Taylor and maybe provides a little bit more solidity. I'm not sure, but we couldn't get the mid. We couldn't get going all over the pitch, to be honest with you, could we? No matter what we did, every time we tried something new, we just got shut down pretty quickly. Even the balls down the right for Burns, Corberon clearly changed something. I think Townsend started staying slightly deeper, and that got shut down as well. So, the tactics from West Brom were absolutely spot on through the whole 90 minutes.
Someone said, quite rightly said on the Telegram group, you wouldn't want to face them in the playoffs, would you?
Oh no. You want to face a far more open. Well, he got Huddersfield through to the finals.
Yeah, true.
I was at both of those playoff games against Luton, and I will double down on what you've just said, Dave. You don't want Corberan in the playoffs, whoever you are, even if you're a year 1 parachute team. He's the one you kind of probably want to avoid, isn't he? Seb, you think Kieran McKenna can work his magic at half time, and you come out and you force a corner, and Plymouth nearly did us with one of these vertical counter-attacks. Okay, it's annoying. It's a beautifully taken goal, the second one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We started quite well. Obviously, Maudsley plays clips the ball into the back post where Hurst is lurking, put out for a corner, and Maudsley gets a shot. They were very I wouldn't say jammy, but a lot of the ricochets did fall their way last night, and that's what kind of happens from Morsey's shot, isn't it? And suddenly they're off, and that pace. We had two back. Did we have Taylor and Williams with the players kind of left back, and suddenly you've got Wallace picks it up, finds Asante Thomas who slips it through to Degarara.
Thomas
Asante. I keep doing that. Yeah, I keep getting the name the wrong way around. Slips it in, and they fire home. He hits the post in off the post, and it's an absolute killer time to score, isn't it? Conceding early in the first half is one thing, and then you come out, you start reasonably well for the first 2 or 3 minutes of the second half, and it's an absolute killer blow at that point, because having seen in the first half how well they've shut the game down after going 1-up, that in reality this is going to be a hell of a long night to try and get something out of it. It was a good goal, and just awful timing on our part again.
And there's been times, Dave, Flaggy's bailed us out in those 1v1s.
No chance. I tell you what caught my eye on that goal, the little slip ball from Thomas Asante was delightful, because he could have get that wrong. It was only a little 2 or 3 yard ball, but the weight on it, he just sort of, I don't even know how he passed it. He just sort of just caressed it through, and it's a classy, £12 million player, classy finishing off the far post, and you're just not coming back from that. Not last night, not against them.
That killed us, didn't it, Dave? And maybe if we'd have had Hutchinson on the bench, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
Would have been something I would have gone to.
Different. It'd been something different, a different threat on the night. I think. But as McKenna said in his post match, conceding the goals at both those times just kills you, doesn't it? You're not got a foothold in the game for the first one. Okay, we've done fairly regularly in previous weeks, but what was that, 4 or 5 minutes? You got no foothold in the game then, and then. Yeah, okay, it's only like 90 seconds in the second half, but it was a nice, probably one of our best attacks so far, with a little clip ball from Morsey, and Bartley just gets a bit on it, takes it off from Hurst, and then disappointing thing there is from our corner, isn't it? And that's always a shit show, from your own corner, and 20 seconds, 25 seconds later, the ball's in your goal. So it's just just put it down to I say one of those, but yeah, they were very good. They were very good.
We'll go to summings up. Let's just give you the numbers and see if they tell us anything that our eyes weren't. Probably not, to be honest. Yeah, God, look, 0.23 XG for the top scorers in the division, 51-49 in our favour on the possession, 0 big chances created or missed. And there's the big one, isn't it? That 0 shots on target. So regardless of, I agree with your points about the defending, Dave, but a simple leap of logic, because if you make no chances and have no shots on target, it doesn't really matter how you defend. You ain't going to win anyway.
Quite a nice little cameo from Dane Scarlett at the end. He was really unlucky. That was close. That left foot shot near the end. Well, it wouldn't maybe not surprise me if he gets a start Wednesday.
We'll get on to that, David. We'll get on to that. Don't jump the gun.
I'm sure we will.
Seb, your summings up on West Brom away.
I think Nick summed it up nicely in the comments towards the start of the chat. He just said we were outfought and outthought, and we were. Their tactics were spot on. They closed us down brilliantly. They stopped us playing our natural game. We had probably all bar probably Brandon Williams were probably a 5 or a 4 out of 10. Brandon Williams did okay. It was good to see him back in the side, put in a crunching tackle like he always does. Had a naughty one in the second half like he always does.
Oh yeah,
he was probably the best of a bad bunch. But yeah, too many off players up against too good at opposition who were expertly coached on the evening and kept us at arm's length for the entire 90 minutes, I thought. But the good thing is, obviously, it's come at the start of a 3-game week with 2 home games to follow. So that's the crucial thing. If this is 2 weeks ago and it's the last game before the international break, maybe you're thinking, oh, okay. But the fact we can follow it up so quickly against Millwall on Wednesday and then next weekend against Coventry is vital, I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Morsey then picks up another booking, doesn't he? So that's what, 8 now. So
and it was needless as well. I don't think he had to do it. That's the frustrating thing. So
frustration all round, really. I think
he's going to end up missing Norwich and Leeds, isn't he?
Oh, stop it! Well, whatever is going on, we've hyped up this month a lot with Middlesbrough away as well, and you got Leicester in there. The likelihood is whenever it does fall,
and on the slim, I say slim chance, and the chance that I don't know. Half an hour to go on Wednesday. We're 2 up. Get him off. Bring on Luongo or Taylor.
Get him off. Dave, you got anything to add on top of what Seb said?
No, not really. I think Seb just said it. We were pretty much schooled throughout. I think. I'm on criticism about Corberan. He's just not animated enough, is he? I mean, Christ, what? I mean, it was quite funny on Sky. They commented on Sky just how animated he was. opposed to McKenna, who's very, considerate and is really not, certainly no hand gestures or anything. It was quite funny. My God. But they absolutely did a number on us, and take that, move on. And as Seb quite rightly said, better to come last night with 2. Yeah, you'd think very winnable home games to come this week.
And we're going to get into the championship. Better to drop points when everyone else drops points than when everybody else wins as well. So could have been a lot worse, put it that way. Here's a word from our sponsors at Innovation Labs.
Innovation Labs is business hub and co-working space with strategic locations across Suffolk. Our aim is to foster innovation, entrepreneurship, business growth, and the development of an AI centre of excellence in Suffolk. Monthly hot desks are available from just £79. For more info, head to innovationlabsgroup.com or contact info@innovationlabsgroup.com. Innovation Labs, providing support for businesses across Suffolk. Locations in Stowmarket, Ipswich, Sudbury, Woodbridge, with more to follow.
ITFC women scraped in 8-0 today. Lucy O'Brien, who we sponsor through the podcast, on the score sheet again. Rich says they demolished lower league Sutton Coldfield to reach the Women's FA Cup third round. Spurs loanee Lena Gunning-Williams did a second-half hat-trick. Have you ever seen a second-half hat-trick in the flesh, Dave? Getting a chat on that one. A second-half hat-trick. I'm going to talk about Alex Maffey in a minute in the first-half hat-trick, but second-half hat-trick. Someone will come up with one, won't they? The draw is tomorrow with championship teams joining the fun. Ties played on Sunday, 10th of December. And just one more, you will see in my garage office in the freezing cold. I'm in just a T-shirt because it is a Wear the Sport T-shirt, Seb, and you can get 15% off at Wear the Sport with your code Blue Monday. And in the corner there, Seb, Roycer Premiership.
Lovely stuff. Rich has got the Connor Chaplin one, isn't he? The golf swing one. It's a nice range. I'm still deciding which one to get. I'm waiting for a Jono one. You know, when he scored against Walsall and ran to the dugout with his arms up. I'd love that one. So I have to wait and see what comes available.
They're saying Grant Ward in the chat.
Oh yeah, on his debut against Barnsley. Yeah,
sounds like I had a very embarrassing moment where I was doing some stats on Twitter about first game of the season hat tricks, and as an Ipswich fan, I literally missed out the one by an Ipswich player. Which I'm sure
Trevor Weimar. I witnessed Trevor Weimar scoring a second half hat trick in that 7-0 West Brom game. I'm sure he
in the second half.
Scored 4. I'm sure he scored 3 in the second half in that game. Yeah, I think so.
There you go.
Right, Ward, there you go.
Yeah, let's talk about it could have been worse in terms of results. And I mean, let's be very honest about this. We're on round 17 and we still have, how many points we've got? 39 points. So, context is king on all of this. But we were away at a recent Premier League and parachute team, and both Leeds and Southampton, our two closest chasers, were away at teams down in the bottom 4. So perhaps we had the trickiest game. So a 1-point swing there. Not the worst. And there it is. Guys, as usual, pick out anything you want to talk about. I'll just rattle through the results. Rotherham 1, Leeds 1 then. So that's in our favour, big style. Birmingham 2, Sheffield Wednesday 1, a Wazza win. Bristol City 3, Middlesbrough 2. You're talking about potential 6th place teams. I don't know, or playoff teams. A Middlesbrough defeat there. Put that in your pipe and smoke it however you like. Huddersfield 1, Southampton 1. Again, that works quite nicely for us. Leicester 2, Watford 0. They were the big winners. Nobody in the top 6, going into the weekend, one other than Leicester. A perfect weekend pretty much for them. Here's a really interesting game. Millwall versus Coventry, literally our next two opponents this week. 0-0 would have probably been better than a nice tasty Coventry win, but it's Millwall next, and Millwall off the back of a horrible home defeat there. We'll get the boys' takes on that. Norwich 1, QPR 0. Apparently, this was kind of nicest guy in jail competition. It wasn't a good game from what I hear from my Norwich friends, but back-to-back wins for them there, Canaries. Morgan Whittaker is inevitable. Plymouth 2, Sunderland 0. Ouch, whack, woof. Preston 1, Cardiff 2, 99th minute winner there. Stoke 0, Blackburn 3. The great fun, Blackburn, aren't they? Swansea 2, Hull 2. Anything, David, you want to pick out of that bunch, my friend?
I mean, I suppose the obvious one is to be mentioned at the Leeds game Friday night. Who they went 1 up, and I thought, crikey, this is going to be 4 or 5 here. And fair play to Rotherham, stuck in there. I think with their only shot on target, certainly in the first half, got back to 1-1. They could have won it. They probably had the better chances to win it actually in the second half. But so that was certainly a bonus going into the weekend. And as was obviously we learned. Well, obviously, a couple of hours before we lost, there was a very late equaliser, a very late and welcome equaliser for Huddersfield against Southampton as well. So they were sort of two. Leicester, you'd expect them to win at home against Watford. Although Watford had been on a fairly decent run of form, I think. But I think you'd have pretty much expected that. But those two results certainly sort of softened the blow of our defeat yesterday, I think.
Yeah, Seb, if you want to crack in on that, and I'll bring the table up while you do it.
Yeah, just essentially, we drop points at Rotherham, we drop points at Huddersfield, and it shows that sometimes you go to these places, and what at the time feels like a bit of a downer and feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. When you look back with a bit of hindsight, these aren't easy places to go. The sides that are going to start scrapping for their lives are going to go more direct and go more physical, and it's not just us that can get caught out by that, obviously.
Dave, is anything sort of changing for you in respect of the analysis we've given the last 4 or 5 weeks of, look, there's a probable top 4 there, given the points Leicester and Ipswich have on the board, and that Leeds and Southampton are year 1 parachute
Yeah,
squad?
I mean, I think so. Having seen, though, West Brom last night, and you mentioned the Corberan sort of 18-game run under Huddersfield, they look like a side that are quite capable. And I mean, apparently they were really unlucky just before the break against Southampton.
So I've heard, yeah,
hit the bar, and they won 1 and had a really good chance. I think hit the bar, and they Southampton got a last-minute winner there. So yeah, you would think West Brom would be certainly more on the evidence of last night would be more than capable, really. Yeah, some interesting results there. Sort of Cardiff had a bit of a smash and grab. Although Preston were down to Robbie Brady, I think got sent off. We're down to sort of 10 men for most of the second half, but they scored 2 really late goals. So yeah, it's all quite interesting. And again, you mentioned it. I mean, Morgan Whittaker's strike was just sublime again, isn't it? Flipping it. What a player. What a player.
What a player. Seb, if Corberan is going to have a good season, it sounds really dull. Are you kind of down to 1 playoff place for, if you assume you have a top 4 in whatever order, and I know form changes, and we all have Middlesbrough coming on a charge and they lose 1 game, and it's like, oh, well, Middlesbrough are not even in that shot on the screen there. But you would suggest Preston, Cardiff, Hull, Sunderland, Blackburn, Bristol City, a lot of inconsistent teams there, and maybe Hull and Sunderland, probably both can't get in there, but it does seem to be, I know we could do the 3-game week as well, and someone could get 9 points and someone could get 2 points, and you got a 7-point swing. But what's your take?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you've nailed it. I think the kind of the natural order is starting to take effect a little bit, given the starts that us and Leicester have had. In reality, even if Leeds take us, one of us two is going to seal 1 spot. Southampton are going to be there or thereabouts for the entire season. West Brom look good, I guess. With the only thing with West Brom is if they get some of their assets pinched, maybe in January, given the kind of they are having maybe to sell people, if that catches up with them. And then yeah, like you say, it's a mad race for 6th, and sometimes it's the team that finishes 6th that has that incredible momentum that carries them through, isn't it? I guess Middlesbrough were the early season favourites. I think I predicted them to go up 2nd in the summer. I thought they'd do really well. They were on that awful start, incredible run, inconsistent since. So we're going there in a couple of weeks' time. So I'd probably still make them. I know they're further down than the likes of Hull and Sunderland and stuff. But if they can get it going, I'd maybe fancy them to finish 6th.
There's someone just mentioned on the chat there, Blackburn are a nice side. I know you said they're a bit bonkers, Ben, but yeah, there you go. Yeah, they're a nice side. Yeah, they're very inconsistent though, aren't they? But they're capable, very capable, certainly away from home.
I would add a caveat to Mr. Peanut's comment there, which says Blackburn are the best team to visit PR. I mean, that may be true.
Maybe good.
They're just a very good attacking team. They never draw, and like you say, they're a bit bonkers, and
they're easy on the eye. Let's say that's a good easy on the eye. Yeah,
but I guess if someone comes in with money in January for Schmodic, that could derail their whole season. I guess, couldn't it? That's the worry they've got, I guess.
lad Wharton in
Wharton, yeah.
midfield.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. We can go nice and early on to questions tonight. So if you've got any questions for the boys, get them in the comments. Stick a Q before then. Let me just give a quick plug for Telegram, our Telegram service, because we had our first Telegram roundtable this past week, which was really, really good fun. So 3 of the guys off Telegram, I think I've seen Neil and Chris in the chat. Mark joined as well, and all had their say, and that went out to our Telegram subscribers. And we're hoping to bring on different people each and every time. So if you want to get involved with that and have your voice heard and chat to one of us from the podcast, then please do join up the Telegram. We're not obsessed with the sound of our own voices. We do want to hear what you guys have to say, and that's a real good platform, we think, too. Right, questions. Well, I'll start with a comment, because Romeo is right. And we'll come on to Millwall. We can do a little bit of detail on Millwall because we've got time tonight. I love Bart, but I hope we give him a miserable night on Wednesday. We will be witnessing the return of Bart too.
Yeah, I hope he'll get a good reception. He should do.
He should do, shouldn't he? After his 17 Player of the Year's awards. There is, I think, Carnivore Nation, as Harry used to say about you, Dave, cut through the crap. There's the $64,000 question. What would you change? And Joe didn't know the answer to this last time we asked, to try and cut out conceding the early goal. Big pattern now.
But it's so different. All these early goals are so different. Like, for instance, last night, big point that Hinchcliffe made on the Sky summary. First goal was conceded from a corner, or barely the first goal was conceded from a corner all season, I think. They're all very different, aren't they? It's I'm struggling. You do struggle for it. I mean, will a change, make a change at the back? Does that make a difference? Well, no, because when Tuanzebe played, we also conceded when they split Burgess and Wolfenden. I just don't think there is an answer to it. Last night, sometimes it's just good play. The lead up to the goal was a great cross, and initially, and the corner was a well delivered corner. Last night, short of having a man on the far post. There you go. But then that's not going to make any difference to probably the 5 goals was conceded within the first 10-15 minutes in the previous 5 games. They've all been different. I don't know.
Seb McKenna did confess that we've spoken about it, so it is an issue that's been raised in their heads now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's becoming a thing, isn't it? But like Dave says, they're all different. So how do you possibly plan against it? You've had a set piece, you've had a worldie from Morgan Whittaker, you've had a bit of luck with Stansfield's opener when Bakuna kind of fumbles a shot through. There's nothing obvious. Yeah, there's nothing obvious standing out, is there? There's a mistake from Davis at Rotherham away. There's so many kind of variables. It's almost impossible to come up with a solution. Like Dave said, you can't change Well, you can change personnel, but we've done that, and that didn't stop it. So it's a really weird one, isn't it?
And Seb, it's almost like we're actually the victims of this really relaxed, everyone knows what they're doing, we're not changing for everyone, there's going to be keep it tight for the first 10, get it in the other half. We're almost the victims of that, which we love. The fact that from minute 1 to minute 90, like you say about Davis, we're going to try a crossfield ball in our own half and, a chest control mistake or what have you. We might get caught up the pitch and Jed Wallace gets behind. But yeah, maybe that's the bite that we've had, isn't it? Michael, we'll go into detail on this, Michael, but it is a pertinent question, Seb. Would you change the team much for Wednesday night? And probably more importantly, will Kieran McKenna change the team much on Wednesday night?
We'll see some rotation when he tends to do it in these kind of 3 games weeks. I thought Tuanzebe would come in at West Brom because of the pace of their front line. So I'd imagine, given Wolfenden wasn't great, neither was Burgess, to be fair. They both kind of struggled. So I'd expect Tuanzebe to be a starter. I'm not sure, is Williams ready, do you reckon, to play 2 games in quick succession? Is Burns? I guess it'll depend if Hutchinson is back. And then I guess, Scarlett, like Dave said, Scarlett did look good when he came on. He put himself out a little bit, and he was physical, and he had that great effort towards the end of the game. So potentially he might come in, and maybe you rest Broadhead with a view to give him Coventry at home. The guys that travelled, Luongo, Burgess, Broadhead, have all just looked a little bit leggy in recent weeks. Is it a chance to kind of dip them out, maybe look to bring them back in against Coventry and give some of the squad players a run out, or potentially just bring Luongo back in because he had the rest last night, and kind of tighten up that midfield alongside Morsey?
Dave, anything on that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree with all of that. I think for certain we'll see Twanzebe play on Wednesday, and yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Luongo back in the centre with Morsey, and yeah, Scarlett start for maybe Broadhead or maybe even Chaplin, but yeah, I would probably say Broadhead on the evidence of last night.
Chaplin's not quite been at it, has he? The last few kind of games,
No.
he scores in spells, but if he's
Seb, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I've talked about this, about having the flexibility to go to a more 4-3-3 shape. We could have done with an extra body in midfield yesterday.
Yeah,
I know
last
it's
night,
easy to say after the fact.
Yeah,
isn't it?
last night.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. And you have kind of Taylor as that slightly more advanced of the two, and have the base of Morsey and Luongo kind of mopping up to kind of combat their central midfield.
Yeah.
It's a question from the boss guys. We better read it out, Richard. Could McKenna flex his selection to suit the opposition more, or do we need #more bodies in the building? I wonder if he's maybe talking about we've seen. So we're going to come up against Hadji Wright for Coventry, and George Edmondson has played against the hard running strikers. So we might see that on Saturday. I'm trying to think specifically. We just don't know it. We talk about.
I think there's been evidence of that. I think Edmondson against Hull. Edmondson up against Delap. Wasn't he up against Delap?
Yeah, that was the comparison I was drawing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Rich there is referring to physicality, isn't he? We were talking about it in the stands last night. Did we have other players that could have potentially started, given what we knew we were going up against? There were times when, Chaplin, poor guy's trying to win a flick on against Kipre and Bartley, and he's got no chance whatsoever. So was it maybe a chance to give, I don't know, Scarlett is physically bigger than Chaplin. Was it a chance to give him more of a run out to maybe combat that physical domination that West Brom had over us? But have we really got those kind of options?
Yeah.
That you look at the bench, Harness isn't the biggest. Jackson's quick, but he's not overly physical. The Dapo's big-ish, but Hurst is the more physical of the two. So I think when he's saying more bodies in the building, it's something that maybe we need to look at in January.
More girth.
But Dave, this is where I was so happy with McKenna last season, because he did pivot during the season. He realised where things were going wrong, and if his pivot this season is look, that we might, in certain games, we might have to do this little tweak.
You're right, Ben, but I still think what it comes down to is the quality of opposition now, isn't it? We didn't face a team like that last season.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's very true.
He'll learn from it, won't he? We won't when we play them in the return game, whenever that is, March, April, or whatever. We know that McKenna will take things on board from last night, and he will learn from it.
Yeah.
Rob, I mean, this is an important thing to address. I know people get very snippy and emotional about this, but Rob has every right to ask this question, Dave. Do you feel we're starting to have our blip? Last 4 games, 5 points and 8 goals conceded. Can I just have my say quickly, Dave, before you come in?
Go.
That you can't... we might be, but we can't rule it out. It normally needs a few more games for me to say for certain, because I can sit here and make arguments, because 3 of those 4 games have been away from home, haven't they? Where we've conceded the 2-2s against Birmingham and that business, and then you've got the international break in between, which you can always make an argument against it. I would say if we go and beat Millwall in the next game, everyone will say blip cancelled. But he's got a right to ask that, hasn't he, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make there. It's a good question, but it's a good point you make there. I think let's see let's see how many points we gather from these next 2 games. So come Saturday evening, if we conceivably draw, if we don't get say 3, let's say 4, and we're being greedy, 4 points for these next 2 games. If we don't get 4 points, so perhaps a win and a loss, then you probably would consider that a blip, wouldn't you? Good, just based on our form so far.
Well, I mean, it's we discussed this, Seb, haven't we? That we can't in good faith make comparisons on 2.4 points per game, or whatever the ridiculous number we've got. So you can argue as an objective fact that the points have dropped off in that period. But what's your take anyway, Seb?
Well, yeah, I understand the last 4 games, but like you say, 3 have been away from home. You've got a kind of a new manager facing Rooney. Rotherham's a very physical place that we don't traditionally do that well at. Last night we were kind of schooled a little bit, and we won the last home game against Swansea. So I think there is mitigation there. Like you say, it's the fact that our form has been incredible for 18 months, apart from a 6-week spell, kind of January to mid-February at the start of this year. So naturally you cannot keep that level of performance up, and you will start to regress a little bit. And if regressing is drawing your away games, losing 2 out of 17 and winning all your home games, it's not really that much of an issue. I think, like Dave says, the next 2 games will tell us a lot. If we bounce back and beat them both, and we're sat here on 6 points next Sunday, no problem. This game can be, you move on quickly. If we draw one, if we lose one, then potentially, maybe we're at the same position we were last year, where kind of got to December, didn't it? And we were discussing, does the squad need a bit of refreshing? Is are we being found out? That kind of stuff. And I guess those chats will continue, but I think we'll beat Millwall and Coventry personally. I had last night down as a defeat. I said 1-1 to appease Rich on the pre-match show, because I thought he'd say I was being miserable. But I thought we'd lose.
On the Championship Check-In podcast, I said 1-0. Sam Parkin had 1-0 written down and changed it to 2-0 to West Brom because I'd said 1-0. So I literally forced him into the right prediction.
Tell you what, I would say, given the manner of the defeat last night and the complete, and again, okay, it's the quality of opposition, the complete how we were dominated. Man, if we can win these next 2 home games, that will probably be the one of the more impressive things so far this season. Incredible.
Yeah. And then we'll be on 45 points by the first week of December, which is mental.
45 to survive. Hey?
Insane.
That is absolutely
80% survival rate with
crazy.
45 points. Come on you know your 10-year numbers, don't you? Norman always asks good questions. I always look forward to Norman's questions. Based on last night's performance, this is so hard, isn't it? Where would you strengthen to make us more?
Yeah,
when our key strength is our pattern of play, isn't it? Not an individual player.
I think we've all said, look, we need another striker in. We do. I think that's, we've said that all the way through. But I don't think, Norman, you can pretty much go by too much on last night's performance, given the quality and how well the opposition played on the night. To be fair.
Seb, you got anything to add on that one?
No, a striker is the number one for me, and maybe a central midfielder, looking at the fact that Luongo's going to go away. Taylor has shown glimpses. He's capable of the odd 30-yard absolute thunder bastard, but equally he can sometimes go missing occasionally. Evans is out. Ball's a squad player. Maybe central midfield, somebody alongside Morsey, that bit of extra quality and maybe experience to see us through.
Horse Hollerer, how much does Sammy Smolitz cost in the January sales? I would like to point out to Horse Hollerer, this is the worst possible time to sign Sammy Smolitz, because he's a top scorer in the league, and I've just checked, 2025 with an extra year's option on his contract. So they can pretty much. I know Venky's a bit strapped for cash in terms of the FFP, but that would be
top dollar.
We've looked at Cannon to Leicester and Stewart to Southampton and Pirro to Leeds as what the year one parachute teams have been able to do. And you're with him at the top of the charts, Dave. You're almost in.
Well,
in
and also, do you think there's a sort of struggling Premier League side that would take a punt on him?
I'd say no. What do you think, Seb?
No, no one kind of jumps out thinking. Yeah, I guess they'll want the more tried and
2 or 3 years of
they'll want the tried and trusted, not the
season.
No, you're right.
Yeah, they'll want tried and trusted, not kind of 4 or 5 months of exceptional data, I assume.
Is there any West Brom player you'd like to see in our side? I think there's a few shouts for Jed Wallace in the who would be lovely down the down the right wing. You mentioned Yokuslu as well. He's just it's Turkish.
I like the physicality of the striker as well. Thomas Asante Thomas.
Imagine what McKenna would do with Grady Diangana as well.
So. He's probably the one. Yeah, for me, I like Mowat as well. Mowat alongside Morsey.
He played well
as well.
Yeah.
He's a bit more of a like deep line playmaker than which actually McKenna doesn't play with one, does he? It's the goalkeeper. Any more? I think we are looking all right there. Right, let's move on, and we'll talk about Millwall. Let me just give the bits and bobs for the rest of the week, because of course there'll be no Millwall sort of preview, so to speak. So we can go into a bit of detail now on that specific game. We will be doing a post-game reaction on Wednesday. I might do a watch along for that as well. So you could join us all night for that. Mikey, Seb, and Rich are going to be for that one. Friday, Seb and Rich are going to be previewing Coventry, and then we'll be back on the Flagship on Sunday. Hopefully. Can
I just ask what were the viewing figures like for your watch along for the England games?
Not good. Not good. We struggle in the international break, and when the football is that turgid,
God,
we struggle even more. But never a turgid night and dreadful entertainment in the Blue
Certainly
Monday podcast.
not.
Right. So Millwall, we've got very used to Millwall being this side that punches above their financial status in terms of being. I think they've had like 2 8th and 1 7th since they've been close to the. I think they're actually closer to the playoffs points wise when they were 8th, but obviously 7th with less points is better than 8th with more points. It's literally how we work the league tables. But everything has changed now without Gary Rowett. So normally we would be saying, "Oh, is this a team we're going to struggle against in terms of maybe the Rotherham game, the Huddersfield game, QPR?" I mean, they were a bit different last night because it wasn't a low block; it was just a very good defensive shape and a little bit more aggressive with the press than say those other teams I've mentioned. Where maybe I'm doing QPR down a bit because they were quite aggressive. But so we've got Joe Edwards in now, who's had 2 games and try and analyse this. He won the first one 4-0 at Sheffield Wednesday. He won and he lost the second one 3-0 at home to Coventry. Let me just bring the teams up so I can give you a bit of a steer. You'll obviously be very familiar with the keeper there. Jake Cooper's been around for years. Murray Wallace at left back is something I'd like to see because Wes Burns will have a field day. That guy is not mobile, let's just say. Someone who is mobile, who is excellent, who I like very much, actually, when you talk about redirecting loans, Brooke Norton-Cuffy, an Arsenal youngster there at right back. Look out for Casper De Norre as well, who's Dave's type of player there. He's not very Rowett. He can move the ball nicely. And Zian Fleming will try and get 25 yards from goal and have lots and lots of shots. What's your sort of take on this iteration now of Millwall? And I think it's quite a good time to play them, Dave. I'd rather be playing them now than with Rowett, frankly.
Yeah, because obviously they're very much in transition, aren't they? But as you say, what can you read? What can you read about the last 2 games? I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it? Okay, Sheffield Wednesday, we all know are struggling, but sort of 4 really, I think, pretty well constructed goals against them. And then yesterday, I saw the highlights yesterday, a little bit unlucky. I think Bart was a bit exposed perhaps for a couple of those goals. A couple he sort of seemed to make pretty good saves, and just defence didn't react. And Coventry were just sharper.
The data agrees with you there. Look at that. 20 shots to 11. They put up 1.82 on the XG and did not score. Millwall. So could have gone differently, couldn't it?
Yeah, no, I think so. But Millwall's always usually a fairly tough game. So looking forward to it. But you would think our home advantage will tell. Fingers crossed.
What's your take, Seb?
Yeah, like Dave said, good time to play them. You'd worry more if it was still Rowett playing the kind of more pragmatic kind of football that we sometimes do struggle against. I guess Joe Edwards, I can't pretend to know anything about him. Two kind of freakish results. Like Dave says, everyone goes away to Wednesday and does well because they're a bit of a basket case. And then yesterday it looked like Bart made a couple of sharp saves and was the victim of some close range finishing from Coventry.
He's got a more McKenna type path.
Is he ex-Chelsea? Is that
so?
It?
He did the and ask Sam Parkin about this because he literally works for Chelsea TV. But he did the Chelsea Academy teams. So he did have Reece James and Tammy Abraham. So, I mean, he had some nice tools to work with there in terms of a couple of future England players. And then Frank Lampard promoted him when Lampard returned from Derby onto his staff. And then he took him to Everton with him as well. And a bit like the Steve Cooper way, Seb, he then got England under 20s. So, I mean, this is good news for playing them now because he looks like the sort of manager who will build something over the long term rather than, you know, like a Mick or a Warnock or who'll come straight in and have the players eaten out of their hand and, you know, get a tune at him. So that would be my take on him, Seb.
Yeah, so very unlikely that we'll see them lining up in the second half of the season with a 4-4-2 like it was there. They're still kind of in the Gary Rowett kind of.
I think that might be Footmob taking the GPSs and making a big leap, to be honest. But
yeah, it sounds like he's one of these professional young kind of coaches. You know, the sort that is now the trend. I saw a stat the other day saying that half the championship, the top half of the championship, only one manager is under 50 now. It's Mowbray at Sunderland. You know, it's what everybody's going for now, isn't it? These younger kind of coaches that have come through Premier League sides and Premier League academies who have been, you know, specialists in their field for the last 10, 15 years. So yeah, transitional season for them. Good time to play them. Like Dave said, our home advantage would make me pretty confident. You know, maybe not so confident if it was an away game straight away, but the fact it's at Portman Road straight away under the lights, we can, you know, dip a couple of bodies out, bring a couple of bodies in, and yeah, I'm pretty confident that we'll see that one through quite comfortably, to be honest with you.
I mean, they're like 18, well, they're 18th, 20 points. You don't see them. You don't see them in any sort of trouble. You think they'll be fine. So mid-table, pushing above from mid-table.
And the thing is, Dave, we've got a real layer there with that bottom four this season. Where
good point. Yeah,
I'm sounding like I'm talking with great certainty about the top four and the bottom four. But if anyone wants to lay against me, I wouldn't be surprised if the current top four is the final top four and the current bottom four is the final. But you look at Plymouth, and we know Plymouth very well. They're just way better than that bottom four, and so are Millwall and so are Coventry, aren't they? No, unless this turns out to be a really atrocious appointment. I mean, I've got quite a soft spot for Millwall, actually. I like the way they punch against the parachute teams and whatnot. Right, guys in the chat, and I'm going to ask David and Seb. McKenna is not afraid to make 3, 4. I can't remember if someone can light me up as well on how many he made against Southampton, because that might have been 4 or 5. Might have been 4. I can't quite remember. But let us know what your team would be against Millwall. Just thinking it through, Seb. Obviously, we're going to have Flagkey in goal. You've already mentioned the potential. I mean, I suppose we think Davis is a definite. Maybe you could have Clark come in for one and then Williams return on Saturday. But then you could do Williams for 2 games and then have Clark play on Saturday. And maybe you could have Tuanzebe. But would that be for Burgess or would that be for Wolfenden? One thing I'm fairly sure about is if Luongo didn't start against the Baggies, that he probably will start against Millwall. As much as it breaks my heart a bit, Dave's kind of right about Broadhead. So whether you might see a switch there or has he just got too much quality, just does his hour and away you go.
Yeah,
but Seb, sorry, I'm overthinking now, but how many changes do you see and where would you put them?
I think we'll see 4 or 5, depending if Hutchinson is kind of well or not. They just said he was ill, didn't they? Didn't give any more detail than that. So I think Tuanzebe will come into the back line. I couldn't tell you at this point if it'll be for Wolfenden or Burgess. I guess longer term, it's him and Wolfenden for most of January, early Feb, with Burgess being away. But Wolfenden wasn't great last night, so I could see him being rested. Williams looked okay at 90 minutes. He wasn't kind of blowing. He didn't look overly knackered, so potentially he fills in again. I think Luongo does come back in against alongside Morsey and kind of looks to rebuild that relationship that we know so well has proved so effective, and you know they'll look to dominate the play from there. And then Broadhead's the kind of the enigma one, isn't it? If he is a home player though, but yeah, I guess you would. He's not been on form recently, so logically he might be the one to drop out, and Scarlett comes into that position. But he's so good at Portman Road, isn't he? You know, it's mainly away he tends to struggle. So, like you say, do you potentially give him the hour, see what he can do?
And he's a starter. He's not a finisher, is he, Broadhead?
Oh, yeah, no, he's a starter, yeah.
He gets a feel for the game and then comes off after 60, right?
Yeah, I think that might stay the same, and maybe Hutchinson in for Burns on the right hand side, given that Burns has been out for a while. You know, he's had 2 weeks of solid training, but he did get subbed last night. So maybe Hutchinson, if he's fit, to come back in alongside on the right hand flank with Williams behind him, because I quite like that Hutchinson-Williams kind of relationship. I think they've got a decent understanding between them.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen some of the teams go through the chat there. I mean, you know, and I saw a couple of the suggested teams maybe swapping both Broadhead and Chaplin for Scarlett and Harness.
Would that not be too much?
That would surprise me. That
Yeah.
would surprise me, quite frankly. Yeah, that really would surprise me. I would say perhaps either Scarlett and or Harness, as has been recently, Harness for Broadhead when he hasn't been there. So yeah, we shall see. But I think Seb's right. I think there could be at least 3 or 4 changes.
Score prediction for me then, Seb. Can we actually have a clean sheet for once?
It would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah, if we can keep a clean sheet, not concede early and stop giving away these silly goals. Yeah, a lovely kind of professional performance, a 2-0 like we saw so many times last year, you know, where we'd kind of dominate sides, score relatively early and just see games out professionally. That would be lovely. I'd much rather have a 2-0 clean sheet than a 3-1 or a 4-1 victory. You know, get back to making us kind of hard to score against and stop giving away these silly goals that we have recently. So I'll say 2-0, pretty comfortable, score in the first 10 minutes or so.
Is there any sense, Dave, in batching these 2 games? Because I think they might both be quite stiff, might they? Millwall and Coventry. It could be lower chances in these games across both teams than. I've just got a feeling about this. It could be low scoring. I know that's not been the way for us.
Oh, I'm confidently predicting a 3-2. Both games.
Another one.
Yeah, both games.
Can we stop conceding 2 goals, Dave?
You were saying a couple of weeks back when we did this sort of 8 game sort of prediction that it was a Coventry game you were more concerned about.
Yeah, you thought it would be a point, didn't you? You thought it would be a draw.
And them winning 3-0 at the weekend. The problem I've got with Coventry is, and I know it's very throwaway to say someone's in a false position because, you know, well, what does that mean? You know, explain. But I think Coventry will. I just think their players are way better than where they are in the league. I think the manager's really good, and there will be a trend up. I'm pretty sure about that.
And also, they just lost 2 huge players, didn't they? 2 massive players. Let's face it.
Yeah, and it's going to take time. And I mean, this is famous last words because this Haji Wright doesn't seem to be able to score, and Sims is struggling. The lad Sakamoto, you'll like, Dave. He's got one of those first touches that's like he's like glued to his
glove.
Had a lot of comments about Ben Sheaf in the central midfield for them, but when you see what Gyökeres is doing in Portugal, maybe they had a bit of a Emi Buendia type situation where they did have 2 really good players. Maybe they had one who was really carrying them last season, Dave.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
I haven't noticed. Is he stinking the place out in Portugal?
No,
the other way.
Smashing it. Absolutely.
Is he really?
I think he got like 9 goals in 13 in the Portuguese top league for.
Yeah, I hadn't picked up on that. Wow, bloody hell, yeah.
Let's get some predictions in. They're always lovely on a Ipswich Town podcast, aren't they? Here we go. 2-0 Town, 3-0, 2-1 Town. First 3-1 for KM. Has KM never won 3-1? Is that right?
No, it's the scoreline that's never happened, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent shout from Romeo there.
That.
How did you know that, Steve? Chris, 1-0 Town, 3-1 Town. We're very confident here. Very, very confident. There we go. Tractors 3. Lions 2.
No, we don't. I was only joking, guys. We don't want any more of those.
No,
I mean, look,
please give us a clean sheet.
Don't want any more of those.
A win's a win, isn't it?
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, you take it now, but yeah, you prefer a boring, comfortable, as Seb said, 2-1, well, even a 1-0, but 1-0, 2-0. Yeah, you much prefer that. Cool, dear. Yeah,
there we go. Guys, amazing stuff. Final thoughts then, Seb. Just in terms of the psychology of this is a team, a squad, a manager, a club, a fan base that is not used to losing. The last times we've lost, we've then gone on massive unbeaten streaks, literally into double figures of games after the Oxford game and after the Leeds game. So just talk to me about the status of this going into this week now.
Well, without wanting to sound like a Premier League Instagram post, we go again, don't we? It's a great opportunity for us to bounce straight back, and if we do that, it doesn't really matter. We are going to lose games. I know none of us are used to it after the last 18 months of amazingness that we've all experienced, but losing games of football at difficult places against physical sides who are well coached does happen. It's the norm. I've got no doubts that we will probably lose 2 more in December. I think that's maybe being fair. Looking at the fixture list with Middlesbrough away and Leeds away, Leicester at home, we will drop points, and that's fine because we've given ourselves such an amazing start to the season and such an amazing kind of platform to fall from. It's a bit of a free hit because of the Leeds dropping, Leeds and Southampton both dropping points at the weekend. So don't dwell on it. We move on. McKenna will have, learned from it. I'm sure he's been in today watching the replay, seeing what could be done differently. And we've now got a great chance to follow it up with these 2 home games with 6 points.
I'm sure Joe Edwards has been in today watching that game as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, true, yeah.
This is blueprint.
But if we follow it up with 6 points from 3-game week, it's 2 points per game. It's absolutely fine, isn't it? Don't worry about it. Move on. I've seen some of the stuff on social media. Don't panic. This is going to happen. We will lose games between now and the end of the season. It's how we react to it. And the one thing this side has shown us, like you just said, over the last 18 months, we react to defeats very, very well. So give them a chance to go out there and prove it.
Dave?
Yeah, totally agree. These next 2 games, I think, will really tell you what the squad's about, I think. And it will be the biggest squad for sure. So, yeah, crikey, if we can come out of these next 2 games of 6 points, it'll be incredible. I would say incredible, but honestly, really, really, really good after perhaps a little bit of a not setback last night, but a bit of a rude awakening perhaps last night. Oh, hang on, we're not. I say not quite as good as we thought we were, but yeah, this is going to be tough. We know it is, but yeah, these next 2 games I think will tell you a lot about ourselves. Can we just take a few seconds out to talk through the Garnacho goal this afternoon, guys? Can we do that? Oh my God!
Wow! Yeah.
Oh my word! Someone said on the chat that he shinned it like Rooney, but what a goal! Flaming heck!
It's the best one. I remember the Ronaldo one in the Champions League, the Rooney one in the Manchester derby. It's the Bale one in the Champions League, but it's the best by far, isn't it? Because it's further out and the ball seems higher coming at him, and
It's one of the best. Do you remember the Trevor Sinclair one? That was from about 40 yards, wasn't it, Ben?
It's a bit loopy, that one. Jean-Pierre Papin was he was the guy, wasn't he, for Marseille and for Milan?
Jean-Pierre Papin, yeah. But that
we should really pay tribute to Terry Venables as well, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know he'd been ill for some time, but yeah, what a man, what a character, and you hear, and anyone that played from anyone that was associated with him professionally today just speaking so highly of him. Yeah, absolute. His football was an absolute joy, wasn't it?
Remember that summer, Euro 96 was one of my first kind of tournaments. I remember Italian 90 a little bit, but Euro 96 was the first one, and that Holland game, carving teams apart. And
go to the Brook Hotel. Can you see?
Oh, sign out.
Oh, that's cool.
Hang on. Can you? Oh dear.
Oh, faded a bit.
It's fade. You can't see it. It says 2. It just says 2 Ben. Can you see it?
Oh yeah,
2 Ben.
Oh yeah, got it.
Yeah, you got it there.
So was he visiting with Middlesbrough at the time? Was he? Is that why they were?
Crystal Palace. And obviously we should be paying tribute to Terry Venables, but I did have a 5-minute conversation with Attilio Lombardo, and being the nerd I was, talked to him about the Wembley European Cup final when Koeman scored at Wembley for
Sam.
But I'm not a tall man, and I was taller than him. But yes, let's just put these few up. Terry Venables, and for anyone who was watching the Euro 96.
Talking about Euro, on that topic, talking about Euro 96, I'm going to see the Lightning Seeds in a couple of weeks.
Things could be marvellous. Things could be fabulous soon. We hope they are. This has been the Blue Monday podcast with hopefully 4 or 6 points coming in the remainder of this 3-game week. See you all after the Millwall game on Wednesday night.